Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make hamburger soup. So what you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make this soup, and it's got a lot of different ingredients that give it such a great taste, from the ground beef to the diced tomatoes. You're going to have potato in here, all kinds of vegetables and seasoning, and it's just going to have a great taste to it. And what's really great about this is it doesn't take that long to make, and it really isn't that bad at breaking the bank when you make it. This is definitely a budget meal. As long as you find a good price on your ground beef, you are set. But this is perfect for if you have something you want to make, like food for a cold day, or just something quick for lunch, or something out of the ordinary that you don't have every day. This is actually the meal for you, because for nothing else, this is great, and it's going to last more than one time depending on how much you're cooking at a time. It's like if you wanted to just eat this yourself and have a bowl, you might have a couple of meals out of this, or even if you're just a couple of people, it's going to last a minute. So it's something that you can reheat and use again. So we're going to start off with a couple of ribs of celery, and we're going to have a medium onion, and what we're going to do is cut these up kind of on the small side, just for the fact that when they go to cook, you want to make sure that they cook down quickly. And the larger the piece of celery, the longer it's going to take to cook it, the more you're going to have like a hard crunchy piece in it. You really don't want that. You want this cooked through. Same thing with the onion. We're going to try and cut it into pieces that cook quickly, because once we get this in a pan, we are going to cook it for about like 5 or 6 minutes. But we do want to make sure that we don't have those hard bits that when you go to bite into it, it's really crunchy and it seems uncooked. So go ahead and cut up everything as I'm doing in the video. Really, there's nothing to cutting up the celery or the onion or whatever. It doesn't take any special technique. You just cut it up, because that's the best thing about soup. When you're throwing it into the big pot to cook it, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just something that it's a great meal for you to eat, and it doesn't really matter how you cut it up. So as you see with my onions, I'm slicing across and then going across the other direction to cut them into smaller bits. Really just trying to keep these on the small side, so that way when it does go into the pot, it cooks up rather easily. When we get this all cut up, we're going to need at least a large pot for this, because a lot of stuff going into this is going to take up some space. And you're going to put this on medium to high heat, because you want to get this hot, and we're going to add some olive oil. So I'm using anywhere from like 3 to 4 tablespoons of olive oil. Really doesn't matter as long as you get enough on the bottom to work with the onions and the celery, because we're going to put them in and cook them. And they're going to be in there, like I said, maybe 5 to 6 minutes until they've softened up a bit, because you really want to make sure that you get these soft before you keep going. The good thing about it is, as they cook up, you will know that these are getting near being done. You will smell them. The onions will go a little translucent, and you're pretty much on your way to where you need to be. So once they are in the pan, take a spatula or whatever you have handy, a spoon, and mix them up and get them coated with the olive oil, because that's going to help them do their deal as they're heating up. If any of your celery is stuck together, just break it up, because you've already cut it. Sometimes it still sticks together, so you have to knock it around a little bit. And we're going to let this go and do its whole time here. I'd say, to be on the safe side, do at least 6 minutes on this. Stirring occasionally. You don't want it to set up shop or burn. And just keep knocking it around until it actually gets to a point where it's cooked. So once we get this completely cooked through and they have softened, we're going to get ready to add ground beef to this. So that way, that's our next ingredient. And as you can see with my pan here, mine has gotten to that point. Everything has cooked. It's really translucent, and I am adding 1 pound of ground beef. So go ahead and get that into your pot and then break it up. So the whole point right now is to try to break this ground beef into smaller pieces. So we want to make sure that we start by breaking it up before it starts to cook, and just go ahead and use whatever you're using, your spoon or whatever, and just break it into pieces that are manageable. So as it heats up, you can break it into smaller pieces as you go. Now we're going to add some seasoning to this. We're going to use a half teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper. And once we get that in, we are going to mix that through the ground beef and the onions and celery. And we want to keep mixing this around a bit as it's cooking to make sure that we're breaking up the ground beef, but we're also getting all of the flavor cooking through from the onions and the celery. Just keep moving around and keep it cooking, because we want to brown this ground beef before we do a lot more to it. Just a reminder, as you're moving this around, break up those large pieces, but make sure you don't let it sit too long so it doesn't stick to the bottom of your pot, because we really don't want it setting up shop down there. And just move this around a lot. It's going to take a few minutes to brown this, but you want to try to get it to a point where almost all your ground beef is brown and you don't see as much pink. We just want it thoroughly cooked through before we do anything else to this. Now we're going to add to this about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic, and then we're going to actually mix that through everything in the pot and keep it going, so that way we're adding flavor as we go. And I would do this for about a minute or so, and then we're going to add some beef broth to this. So basically you're going to need 6 cups of beef broth, and we're going to pour this in after we've had that minute of cook time. So after our beef broth is in, we're going to go ahead and add 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce and 1 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes. And mine has the Italian herbs in it, so they have like basil, garlic, and other things already in place in the can, just to add the extra flavor to it. And we're going to mix this up a little bit, so that way everything that's already in there is mixed before we add the next ingredient to it. So after we get this all mixed up, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning. And this again is going to perk up the flavor because it's going to work with everything that's in there. Mix it up a little bit, get that seasoning into the mixture. And we're going to get ready to add in a moment some potatoes to this. Now the potatoes, it's kind of your option if you want to use more than not. I use like maybe around 4 small to medium sized ones. You could use larger potatoes if you want, if you really like potatoes and you want to add more to it, go for it. You're going to have those cut up into cubes and you're going to add them to it. And once we get these in, we're going to mix it up a little bit and let this cook for about 25 minutes. And that's going to give time for your potatoes to cook through. And you can test them to make sure they're done by using a fork and just sticking into a piece of potato. If it goes in, it's cooked. If it doesn't, it needs longer to cook. And we've had this cooking now for about 25 minutes. And what we're going to do at this point is add in some frozen vegetables. And mine had everything from corn, green beans, carrots, peas, whatever. But you're going to put at least a cup of this in there, add it to, and then we're going to actually let it cook some more. I'd give it about 8 more minutes, so that way they're totally warmed up, cooked through. You don't have any frozen still in there. And once it's cooked, you are pretty much done. So when you hit the 8-minute marker, you're ready to serve this. And you could serve it with so many other things like bread or whatever you want to. Then this will be such a great lunch or something if you're coming in from the cold. So this is what mine looked like when it was done, and this was so great to eat. Plus, like I said, a little buttered bread with it and you are set for a meal. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out my cookbooks, which are available in bookstores worldwide. The first is about everyday cooking. The second is all about baking. Have a great day.